Hi everyone, we're now live. So welcome to everyone, to those of you who are watching live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or in the future with your lunch. I'm joined by Tess McKinney, Jeremy Nelson, and Paula MacDowell for an hour and a half of chatting around the educators versus VR. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm Tess, Paula, Jeremy. I'm going to remove you now and I'll bring you back in a minute. Okay, so what are we talking about today? For newcomers, the Educators versus VR is a series of podcasts that's really for webinars, rather. That's really for pioneering educators to talk to educators. So immersive learning is a little bit like the Far West. It's opening a world of opportunities and also dangers. So I see a little bit Tess, Paula, and Jeremy as, Billy the Kid or Annie Oakley. They're here to tell you everything that they've been through and all the traps to avoid. I realize the Far West is a terrible analogy because there's no violence and no killing of anyone here. Previously on this webinar, we've had pioneers from Stanford, from George Brown, from IMT, from Georgian, discussing what they're doing. We really want to have a no bullshit approach. So we're sharing the victories, we're sharing the pains. This is not a crystal ball gazing experience. This is not a metaverse evangelist church. Really, this is here for educators. So please use the chat if you're on YouTube to ask all your questions, and we'll try to answer those. For those who don't know me, I'm the CEO of BodySwaps. BodySwaps is a collection of VR apps for soft skills training. We work with over 30 education institutions in 10 countries. I must say at this stage that Tess, Paula, and Jeremy are not clients of BodySwaps. I hope they will be one day, but they're not clients of BodySwaps. So this is not, they're not going to endorse the solution. They're not even going to talk about BodySwaps at all. That's all I'm going to say about BodySwaps, because today I'm your host. And I wanted to start before we go to the first session by just talking about the news briefly. So those are all bits of news that have happened in April 2022. So that's very, very new. Simango, which is a French company, is releasing a digital twin of an ICU to train students in healthcare. The University of Ottawa has partnered with Engage to have moot trials in VR so that students in law can practice trials and complicated legal questions in a safe space. Arizona State University is partnering with Dreamscape to offer virtual tours, and Victory XR, a digital twin of campus provider, if you will, has just announced the launch of 10 metaversities, which are university campus in VR. And that's all like right now in the past week. So all of this to say that we're not talking about the future, we're talking about what's being done right now. So today, we're going to have first Tess McKinney talking about transforming patient care by re-engaging students through games, followed by Jeremy talking about XR for teaching and learning, and concluding with Paula about empowering teachers with immersive learning tools. After that, we should have 35 to 40 minutes for a Q&A, so we will take questions from the chat. And without further ado, I'm going to bring Tess back in. Hi, Tess. Welcome back.
Thanks. Very happy to be here.
You too. Fantastic. So I'm going to do a 1 minute intro about you, Tess, and then I'll let you do. So Tess is an instructional technologist for the University of Nebraska Medical Center. She works for the Global Center for Health Security, supporting AR, VR, and XR education. She's providing advanced coordination and technical support for immersive education, remote consultation services, as well as creating mixed reality modules for distance education. And I'm sure you'll talk to us about this in a second. I'm now going to remove myself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. So today I'm going to, like Chris said, I'm Tess McKinney, and I work for University of Nebraska Medical Center for the Global Center for Health Security as an instructional technologist. And today I'm kind of going to talk about what I've used in the past while working at UNMC with the College of Nursing as well. So I just want to make sure that they're mentioned as well, because I don't technically work for them anymore, but I want to make sure that they're mentioned. So today we're going to talk about transforming patient care by re-engaging students through games. First, I kind of want to go over virtual reality cases, then I'll go over augmented reality and how we use that, and then some other applications as well using 360 tours. So first with virtual reality cases. What we did is we are using a virtual reality simulation to practice patient assessment and interactions at the UNMC College of Nursing. I really think virtual reality simulation for interaction and assessment of a patient is a game changer. Not only are you allowed to make mistakes, but in turn learn from those mistakes and repeat that skill until perfected. It's a new way of learning for sure, but in all of the simulations that I've had a privilege to be a part of, we've had nothing but glowing reviews of the training. While I don't think that this will replace clinical training or mannequin training, I do believe it is another useful tool in the way we educate our healthcare staff of today and of the future. Students have stated that while they are having fun in the headset, they're also learning. And while it's stressful, it took some of the stress off of knowing that they could make a mistake and then go back and learn from it without harming the patient. So, Chris, could you play the video?
Hi, Kate. My name is Brianna. I'm going to be your nurse today. Can you tell me where you are and how you're feeling? Okay, cool. I'm just going to do a quick assessment on you. Hi.
So in that assessment, what we did was the patient or the student was interacting with a patient in virtual reality while two other students and the faculty member were behind a simulation wall kind of interacting. They were the patient. So they were interacting with the student as a nurse within the simulation. We really find it's super necessary. For us, we have about 15 headsets, and so we have 6 headsets going at a time, or 4 to 6 headsets going at a time. And what's beneficial is then those 2 other students that are sitting with the faculty member are also learning, patient interaction. And if we're confused or the patient's confused, then the student can interact with those on the other side. I guess it's more of a learning tool. And we've also had higher students be the patient in the behind the scenes, where the faculty is sitting in this picture. Oh, actually, you can't see that. In that video, the faculty member is really the patient moderator, and then the student is who the nurse is in the simulation. So it's just a new way of learning, and so I wanted to make sure we talk about that. We're also using virtual reality simulation to practice skills and procedures. So in my current job, we are creating VR skills training for infection prevention and control, as well as sterile processing for use in small and rural facilities. And why we're doing that is it's a way to learn basic tasks and skills, so we can use it to train infection preventionists on how to run through processes in a sterile environment, how to react or how to interact and clean tools, and how to properly don and doff PPE. On this kind of platform, we can do it not only in VR, but it also could be done on different modalities such as laptop, iPad, or phone. And so there's just a whole list of different skills you can learn. I mean, there's just so many. I have a couple of different VR groups that I work with or whatever. They have up to 250 different kinds of skills. There are just endless. Pretty much any skill that you could possibly want to learn in VR could be applied using virtual reality simulation. So a few things I did, I helped with while I was at the College of Nursing at UNMC, we partnered with a group. We came up with a solution or really a task. So we came up with a skill. We wrote a script, and I cannot take credit for all of this. This is multiple people have worked, faculty, what I call them as champions. They got together and we all worked on it. I was the technologist in the process, so I just want to make sure that we talk about them, because without the healthcare nurses and facilitators, we have not have accomplished all this. So this is Nurses Escape. It's currently available on the SideQuest store for virtual reality. It's only for virtual reality. It's not on different modalities. But what we did here was we partnered. College of Nursing actually wrote a script and for sepsis. And so this game simulates an escape room based on the different stages of the sepsis bundle. And so you move through the different stages, going through each room. And you have to do it in essentially what you're doing is saving the millionaire in 20 minutes or less. So originally when we took statistics or said that you shouldn't be in the headset more than 20 minutes. So we wanted to make sure that we were cognizant of that. And now, lots of, I sit in virtual reality multiple hours a day. So that's kind of, it's just something that we just didn't want students to be in for longer than 20 minutes. And so this goes through, it's to supplement a nurse's lecture style curriculum. So instead of just drowning on and on for hours, this is a way that we could get nurses to do something interactive in the middle of class. And this is something that they could do if they had headsets at home, they could do at home. We also put it out on the American Association of Critical Care Nurses website. And because of that, we've had 3,200 people download it and play it. And then 10,000 have looked at the site. So we understand that not everyone has a VR headset, but this is out there, and it's available for people to learn more about sepsis. Another one that we did with the College of Computer Science and Engineering at UNL was Rollover Ranch. Currently, that's a one that I'm working on a grant through the Central States Center for Agriculture and Safety. We got a grant from the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health Center, and the grant's listed below. But what it is two of us, a faculty member from the College of Nursing and myself, we grew up on farms. So we wanted to make sure that ag safety and healthcare could work together and talk about tractor safety. So originally we started with tractor rollover safety, and then we're currently moving to ATV safety and farm electrical safety. And so that will be rolling out in May or June of 2022. What we've been doing with this is something that's a passion of ours. And so we worked with the students each week. So every week, the whole year from fall to spring, we meet with the students and we develop the game with them or help them along the way. And so our ag college actually was instrumental in helping us along with this to complete these objectives. So the game itself, you go through and you actually get on a tractor and you're actually driving a tractor and you have different objectives. So like we have one that's herd the cow and one that's feed the cow. And so you actually drive around the ranch. And then if you are to take an incline incorrectly, or if you go into the pond or drive into water or drive into a fence and you flip over, if you haven't put the proper safety, like your roll-ups, if they're up, or if you haven't put a helmet on when you're driving the ATV, then it will give you education within the game to tell you that what has happened. So you potentially could have died, or you could have gotten, goes into the the medical situations so that nurses also learn in these rural situations that, you know, the medical injuries that they would come in with if they were on a tractor and it flipped. So we wanted to be able to make sure that nurses understood what farming accidents cause medically. And we're actually rolling this out where we send out headsets to local middle schools and high schools in Nebraska, and that will roll out this fall. So if you are wanting this is a free application. You can download it and send it to as many people as you want. And all of these simulations, both the Nurses Escape and the Rollover Ranch, were created by UNL students. And so on this one, we actually had 710 downloads or people who played the game, and then 3,700 views. And we're hoping to get that out because there's ag communities all over the US, all over the world. And we want to make sure that people use proper safety when driving a tractor or an ATV, as well as electrical safety. So why do you ask? Is this just another simulation, or what are the benefits? So the benefits, I believe, of using virtual reality as a simulation can significantly reduce costs. It can increase impact with interactive simulations are better learning aid than 2D simulations. This is because healthcare professionals can actually interact with the simulation through gestures, zooming in and out, highlighting various areas, and so on. It cuts down on distractions. So, for example, in a VR environment, you could potentially have a multiplayer, but you wouldn't have just one person taking over control. So a lot of times in our simulations, you know, we would have 4 or 5 students in the simulation, and one person would know all the answers. So of course they'd be the one who's the leader, and then we'd have a couple of students who'd just be like, oh, well, they're good, they're leading it, I don't need to do anything. This actually cuts down on that because it forces the student to have to be able to be in the training and actually participate. You can explore new areas, so there's not really boundaries. So like a lot of our students won't see certain things in simulations or clinicals. And so this is a way to introduce things that they might only see once in their lifetime or once in their career. And so you can use it for so many different avenues, which is super cool. You can hone in on certain skills. So like say they're in simulation or they're in clinical and they're having problems specifically like listening to lung sounds. You can change those lung sounds within the VR, and they'd be able to interact with those. Like I said, it's providing practical experience. It's hands-on learning may not always be possible for rare or high-risk patient scenarios. So these simulations provide the alternative. And then innovation, like it is just one of the most innovative things that I've ever experienced, especially with student learning, and not just in healthcare. I mean, like the tractor safety, we actually put farmers in the headsets, and we actually got them to be like, oh, well, I don't do this. So it's not just teaching the young healthcare professionals, it's teaching farmers who've done things the same way for years. And so, you know, that's why I think it's not just another simulation. It's something that's completely different and really beneficial, I believe. So next I'll talk about some different augmented reality cases. So we use different augmented reality at the College of Nursing for more of like simulation with tutorials and tools to get students to answer questions correctly, kind of just to make it fun and interactive. So I worked with a faculty member who came to me and said, hey, I want to find a way that we could do like a scavenger hunt around our building. This was pre-2020 and pre-pandemic. And so what we did is we used still images in our brand new building to overlay questions about what students were learning in that class. And so what we did is you could preload Roar application on an iPad, and then students could go in groups and they could answer questions. So what I did was what you can do now, or in the future, you can actually use the Roar app and actually go over the poster scene here. And what I did was just embed Martin Luther King's speech into the picture. And then there's a question that the students had to answer regarding their training. So not necessarily about Martin Luther King, but that's something that could be done. But it was just a pre-built embedded question within the poster. And so we had these all around the building. Students thought it was great. We had pre-printed out, they had to go around the building and actually interact with people and interact with things within our building. So it's just a way that the students could study, but it was interactive and fun. And the whole thing to get the product overlay. So like Roar is actually free to education for so many things. And then it's a cheap solution, and it only took about 3 to 5 hours to program. And so we both worked on it, but it's just, it's very inexpensive way to engage your students in a different kind of learning. Same with Blipper, same kind of thing. What we did with these were more of overlays so that they could see brain activity, or you could do like circular activity throughout the body. So it was just a video that's an overlay on top of this image. Same kind of thing. This is free to use. It's just something that was kind of just interactive for our students. So we handed out pieces of paper, or we had these hanging in different parts of the building, and then they utilized these in order to, experience something different. So next I'll talk about 360 photo tour use cases. So we use this a lot at the College of Nursing. Originally, I took 360 photo tours of our campuses. And so then from that, a faculty member asked, hey, can we do this for our Intro to Sim class? And so what we did is we created a 360 video or 360 photo tour where of our simulation room, because what was happening is our faculty members would have to explain how to use the simulation lab, and what the wastebasket, what you need to do with the wastebasket, or the headboard, or the phone, and so it was taking so much time out of their class. They thought, okay, well, why can we make this an interactive feature that students can do on their phone or on their laptop or in a headset? And so this was a way that we did that. And so fewer faculty needed to be there to run the simulation, cutting down on faculty wasted time. There's super high student engagement. We had it on our interactive touch screen. And so while some students, hadn't had time to get to do it on their phone, or they didn't want to download the app, we actually had it available on our eye walls and screens in the building, so that they could actually interact with it while other students were going through our simulations. Less time to run the simulation. These students can start the simulation when they're ready, and not when the faculty are. They can start it when the faculty are ready. Then add consistency between simulations, so that it wasn't one faculty member was talking about the headboard in a certain way, and then the next one would talk about it differently. And so students were getting the same kind of education across the board. So this is what it's like. Chris, if you want to play that video, the second video, sorry. Can you play the other video? Yeah, thanks. So this is our eyewall where students were interacting with that simulation as well. So the little information bubbles within the tour room were just like information about the headboard or the wastebasket or the bed. And what the faculty did is we actually recorded her talking about these applications within the room. And so then each is a YouTube video, and all it was an added YouTube link. And so that's just a 360 photo tour, and that's how we did it. We also, like I said, created campus tours for our student services. This helped immensely during the pandemic because we had them done, and student services could then send them out to prospective students, and we could have prospective students take tours of our building. And we did this for all 5 campuses at the College of Nursing. So if you have a chance, go out and take a look. Other applications for simulation, we used at the College of Nursing, we use merge cubes to have students interact with different like lung sounds or just information on the brain or anatomy. It was just a way to get students kind of out of their chairs and engaged in different things using augmented reality. Overall, I just want to say that this is just in my opinion that I really think virtual reality is a good, sorry, I got to get back to my main screen here. A good use of ways to re-engage students through for healthcare, for transforming patient care. It's a way to get them, it's a way for them to learn how to utilize different kinds of applications or skills, and really help them in their real jobs eventually. I just think it's a good way. Games are a good way to kind of break up the monotony of a class where they're just sitting in a lecture hall. This is just a way that they can do different kinds of simulations. And I want to note that I don't think it's replacing anything. I don't think it should replace clinicals, and I don't think it should replace regular simulation. It's just an added bonus. But I'd really like to thank Body Swaps for letting me present today. And I hope that everyone learns something from what we did.
Thanks, Tess. It was absolutely great. It's fascinating to see the diversity of the use cases that you have developed, the diversity of the technologies that you have used for those use cases. But I feel also importantly the fact that the technology is serving the learner, and it's not VR or AR just for the sake of the technology. It's really gamifying and making it immersive because it builds memorability and at the end of the day performance on the job, which is literally life-saving. I have tons of questions for you, which I'll keep for the Q&A. If you're on the LinkedIn chat right now, on the YouTube chat, you can leave your questions and we'll curate them during the Q&A. So Tess, thanks a lot again. I shall see you in 30 minutes for the Q&A. And
Sounds great.
Going to bring, thanks. And I'm going to bring Jeremy in a second. Jeremy, welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
So I'm going to introduce you briefly, and then I will let you share your presentation. So Jeremy is the director of the Extended Reality Initiative at the University of Michigan. Personally, one of the most ambitious initiatives that I have seen. At the university, you work to leverage XR to strengthen the quality of Michigan education, to cultivate an interdisciplinary scholarly community of practice, and enhance a nationwide network for academic innovation, which is what it's about today. So Jeremy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. That was great. It's good to hear from you, Tess. I've tried Nurses Escape, so it was nice to hear a little bit more about how that came about. So again, I'm the director of an extended reality initiative at the University of Michigan, and I'm going to talk about our work around XR for teaching and learning. So our initiative was launched in the fall of 2019. It was really focused on 3 main areas: to integrate XR technologies into teaching and learning for our 19 schools and colleges in the Ann Arbor, Michigan campus, integrate them into our online curriculum, and create innovative public-private partnerships. So our initiative lives within the Center for Academic Innovation at the university. This is a group that's been responsible for creating a lot of the massive open online courses. We've created over 200 courses through Coursera and edX and FutureLearn. Over 10 million learners globally have taken them. So some pretty exciting opportunities to see how we can bring these technologies to a global audience. But this all didn't just come about because the XR initiative was launched. There were a lot of things already happening at Michigan. We had a faculty in our film, TV, and media group work with folks from our emerging technology group on campus to recreate the last scene of Citizen Kane in VR, and students can go into a headset and control the camera. And there's an actor that was motion captured acting out if you've seen the movie, where he's throwing a tantrum and flipping over tables and kind of trashing the room. And so you can go film that scene and export your clips out and edit them together. So a really interesting project. We had folks in our medical school. We actually helped with this. We loaned them a couple HoloLens 2s in peak COVID in our hospital. There was a problem where the med students weren't able to do their ward rounding like they had been able to do before. And so we were collaborating with folks at the Imperial College of London, where they were doing this, and they shared some of their processes and protocols. So we'd have a physician wear a headset into the patient room, and then all the med students would be on a Teams or a Zoom call, and they could see from the perspective of the physician and then engage and talk with the patient. And then the person wearing the headset could see a holographic image of the medical record or a CT scan or an X-ray. Just some really interesting projects are coming out of that, providing remote consultation now for rural health. And then kind of on the other spectrum, we had a faculty in our English department, Professor Sarah Blair, that created a course called The Novel in Virtual Realities, where her perspective was novels are immersive technologies. They have been for hundreds of years. You just had to use your mind to create the world. Now that we can create those worlds and put you in those positions, what does that do to perspective taking and discussion? We have an XR curriculum here at Michigan. We have an XR graduate certificate that launched in the fall of 2020, where students take 12 credits. They do a capstone, an internship, and they can take classes from any of those schools we have there being offered. And we've also created an extended reality for everybody, massive open online course on Coursera. It's free. You can pay for a specialization, but it's really about the knowing, doing, and shaping the future of XR. And have a little video here of this Professor Michael Niebling. He's using Tilt Brush to kind of teach about the augmented virtual reality spectrum. And so he's kind of teaching in 3D about what that looks like. So we've got some cool production techniques we've done in the course. And so one of the ways, there were a lot of faculty doing XR on campus. It was pretty distributed. So one of the things we wanted to do in the beginning was just see what was possible. So we had some funding, and we had 2 XR developers. And so we put out a call for proposal to see how faculty would want to use these technologies in the classroom. And so we actually run two calls for proposal in the last 3 years. And so we've received 33 proposals. We've funded 24 of those projects from 11 of our 19 schools. So pretty exciting to see broad interest across the institution. But as you can see there at the top, maybe not too surprising to some folks in this space, people that already work in 3D were strong to the table: architecture, engineering, nursing, the med school. But we had folks from the School of Music, School of Environment and Sustainability and Social Work, Geological Sciences, Korean Language Studies. So a really broad array of projects. Our first round of projects, we created 4 VR applications from scratch. And so they're a nursing application called Getting Under the Skin. It's a chemotherapy simulation to teach about what can happen when the medication is delivered incorrectly. A VR physics lab to replace some of the experiments on our campus for our existing physics laboratory. We had a nuclear reactor on campus for over 50 years that was decommissioned in 2003. And so we recreated that in VR, and now students can run simulations and go into the reactor core. Some really cool opportunities there for students to engage. And then we worked with our construction architecture faculty to create an application called Augmented Tectonics, where they teach a lecture about how to build with glass, steel, concrete, and wood. And then they can go into the VR lab, and it's almost like a museum where there's all these design challenges in the wood module. And so they can explore how to fireproof wood and how plywood is made. And so that just launched late last fall. And so that was the first round. And the second round, we didn't have capacity to build more applications. So in this call for proposal, we required the faculty to bring a commercial authoring tool to their proposal. So they actually had to say, here's what I want to do. and here's the software we're going to use to make that happen. I was really interested in how do we create more content, and how do we create more content creation capacity, because a lot of those applications take a long time to build from scratch. The tools are getting better, the frameworks are getting better, but it's still quite a lift of design and development and 3D modeling. And so in this case, we had a few HoloLens projects, a mobile AR project, and quite a few 360 video projects. If the math people out there, the numbers don't add up, because one project had both a HoloLens and a 360 video project there. So really focused around soft skill development, language learning, nature exploration. As you can see right here, this is English Language Institute, and so these are non-native English speakers, and so faculty created some 360 experiences where students can go practice having conversations or kind of navigating around campus. And we'll stay on the nursing theme. Our nursing school here was very excited, kind of leaning in heavily to this. And so in the middle of like the fall of 2020, the nursing faculty came to me and said, hey, we have to figure out how to train all these students. We're growing 30 to 40% enrollment year over year. We don't have enough faculty. We don't know how we're going to teach them with COVID. And so we began exploring ways to teach skills with extended reality. And so I had heard about an application from Microsoft called Dynamics 365 Guides. And so this allows you to create step-by-step instructions to project them into the HoloLens. And so they began exploring with a pilot, creating certain procedures, skill procedures, to enhance their mannequin-based training. And so in this case, there's a QR code next to the mannequin. The student looks at the QR code and it pops up and says, hey, do you want to do chest tube insertion, lumbar puncture, catheterization? And so I have a little video here. It should play all right. And so this is a lumbar puncture. And so it can bring in images or video and kind of showing them what the anatomy looks like and giving them instruction. And then we're able to augment the actual mannequin by putting in a 3D model of the spine and kind of labeling where L3 and L4 are there. So they still get the experience of kind of working with the mannequin, but now it's enhancing that experience. So showing them where the needle is and then kind of where to place that. And so they're able to do this pretty much self-directed now. So the students can do this as many times as they want until they feel comfortable. And then when they're ready, they take the headset off and have the faculty come over and test them on their skills. So they've been able to significantly reduce staff time and then increase student confidence, because they can make all the mistakes while they're not being watched, even though maybe they're being watched, but not like they thought they were. One of the ways we've been able to make all this happen is we hire student XR fellows. And so we were fortunate enough a couple years ago to win an Epic Games mega grant focused on hiring students and teaching them how to develop XR experiences with Unreal Engine. And so we've been able to hire, actually, it's almost 30, it's up to 37 students now over the last 2 years, and really focusing on how do we do discovery and pre-production and production. We do 2-week development sprints. We use professional tools like Jira and source control and do status reports. So we're teaching the students how to do professional software and XR development. So hopefully they're better prepared when they go out into industry. And then for us, that we can kind of manage all of these disparate projects in a much more coordinated way. And so some of the projects the students have got to work on, they do storyboarding, they've done prototyping, they've done some AR filters here. You see, they've done some Instagram filters. And so we have students from architecture, art and design, business school, information, school of music, theater and dance, our liberal science and arts. So pretty broad array of students and backgrounds. And last year we were able to, we had an XR summit. We're actually having another one next week, but I wanted to find a way to bring folks together. So we had an art student and an architecture student recreate the center of our campus, which we call the Diag, in 3D. And we held an event on AltSpace. So I'll show this real quickly.
The Diag really represents the university. It represents campus. It represents our community.
It's the crossroads of everything.
There's been so much loss in this pandemic. I think for here at the university, for students, staff, and faculty, the Diag is the center of campus. We wanted to give that back. So I proposed recreating the Diag in 3D.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's beautiful.
This is really
this is really well done.
Our day-to-day process was really based on trying to recreate an individual building at a time. So what that would involve is going and gathering reference images, map data, and 3D models to then build on top of.
Oh, wow.
The idea of creating a space where people could gather and share ideas.
It's so inspiring to see what's happening here at Michigan.
Was a very exciting idea to me.
I met people from London, from Ecuador. I met somebody from Jordan.
I'm based in the UK.
Creating an environment in a digital space is interesting because it can bring together new communities of global learners that may never be able to come to campus.
We recreated it as truthfully as we could within our constraints, and it felt right. It felt to me that I was on campus.
It was kind of a wonderful feeling to be back, to really just be together again.
Seeing other people experience it for the first time, it gave me this very, very overwhelming sense of accomplishment.
I think the Diag is the most important symbolic place we have. Having it available virtually is a great way to reconnect and helps me feel a little bit more connected to the place that I love.
That was pretty exciting to be able to, have students create something really powerful. And yes, I did notice that I was wearing the same shirt in there. So one of the things in the middle of the pandemic we tried to figure out is how do we continue to provide access? We had a VR lab on campus, and so we really wanted to see how could we get headsets to folks. So we purchased about 30 Oculus Quests. We worked with our library to provide a contactless checkout process. We developed all these COVID protocols. We purchased a clean box. So when the device gets checked back in, it's wiped down, it's put in the clean box for disinfecting. It's kind of prepped and ready for the next set of class. Right now, it's prioritized for classes where students in a class are going to use that for assignments, but it's available for students kind of throughout the rest of the year and the other semesters if it's not being used for a course. And I'll stop there and turn it over for the next group.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy. It was indeed interesting doing that video to see you on the stream live, you in the video with the same shirt, and you in the 3D version in the video.
That's right. It was all me. I have no ego in this.
Once again, it's the scale of the experimentation is interesting, and in this spirit of pioneering, having so many initiatives at the same time, but doing it in parallel. Is truly a testimony to everything we can achieve with those technologies, and it's very interesting. If we only to bring together what you have done with what Tess has done, we already have 20 XR education that can be used by hundreds of institutions around the world, which leaves a big question mark around mutualization and accessibility. We'll leave that for the Q&A. Thanks a lot, Jeremy. I shall see you in 15 minutes. And I'm now going to bring Paula in. Cheers. Okay, so Paula, welcome back. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Very impressed, as I expected to be. So let me do a quick introduction before I leave you the floor. So Paula is an assistant professor and acting department head of curriculum study at the University of Saskatchewan. She contributes to research and advocacy initiatives, immersive education, XR technologies, instructional design, and education for social and environmental change. Paula serves as a practitioner chair for the Immersive Learning Research Network. That's it for me. I will let you take the stage.
Thank you for the introduction, Chris, and thanks to Tess and Jeremy for the thought-provoking presentations. It is great to be here today. And I have the honor and privilege of working alongside pre-service and in-service teachers. I work in the area of educational technology and design and can comment on how the field has grown considerably in recent years. All around the world, educators are using digital tools to create, adapt, and personalize learning experiences to accommodate student differences and meet their students' needs. I see the power of immersive technologies for enhancing student engagement, achievement, and other learning outcomes like closing equity gaps in education. But just putting technology in a classroom or school will not make much of a difference. So research shows, history shows that we really need to empower teachers to use technology in meaningful ways. So that's what I want to speak to you about today. And a quick shout out to Jill Adams, who has created the images in my presentation, and you can find her work on creativemarket.com. So to begin, which is education and which is technology? And I want to start off with getting everybody to think about educational technology, and it really applies to immersive technology because we have a long history that we can learn from. And that history shows that technology moves very quickly and education moves slow. The tendency is to go chasing after the latest cool tech thing, and this always causes problems. Developers get an idea of what they think will work in the classroom, creating new cool tools and solutions, but based on technology, not on learning. And then unfortunately, when we're always chasing after the latest cool technology, it can have unintended effects. Technology gets a bad reputation, and often that reputation is, the underlying issue is just that it wasn't integrated in the classroom in a meaningful way, and teachers did not receive the training and support that they needed to use the technology effectively. Here is an example to think about. Hugo Gernsback in 1925 created the isolator. And this was designed to eliminate distractions and noise so the learner can focus and increase productivity. There's an independent oxygen supply so you don't pass out. And this is a perfect example of a researcher, developer who has not set foot in the classroom since they were a child, coming up with a genius idea based on what they thought this cool technology could do without understanding how impractical it would be in the classroom. So luckily, the isolator never caught on. I'm guessing many of you here today and those that are listening to the recording, you can think of other examples of educational technologies that that maybe you would want to not have, and we didn't have a good experience with. So again, my point in thinking about history is because we have many lessons to learn for the rapidly growing field of integrating immersive technology into learning. And this is important because we do have many examples of oversold, underused technologies, and especially lack of support for training teachers. History shows if we don't empower teachers, then we are not likely to be very successful with technology in the classroom. And that aligns with my experience working with teachers as well. The point is to avoid some of these pitfalls we've been through before and to try to go forward in a better way. Something that we pretty much always need to consider is technology overload. The ever-changing nature of educational tools and all the options to use them often creates confusing, overwhelming, uninviting experiences for teachers. The uncertainty of how to begin, the time required, those are things that deter teachers from integrating new technologies into their practice. And you might know some of those teachers. They are teachers who have been using the same overhead projector and transparency for decades because they see no good reason to change. All their students get A's, right? I also wanted to take a minute to share how I see immersive learning technology and to point out that it is more than tools or hardware or software. It's the study, knowledge, process, design, and the ethical practice of meeting a learning need through the meaningful integration of immersive technologies. In that one sentence, I'm missing some things. I'm missing pedagogy. I'm missing volition. What is it that wills us to immersive technologies, that they're so engaging and motivating to use? And it's important to think about and to understand that volition. The focus should always be on the learning outcomes, the objectives. The goal is never to replace what is good practice and what is working. It is to expand and to help to solve problems of learning or challenges. Teachers also can have more options in their pedagogical toolkit so they can meet the needs of their students. As I'm talking about empowering teachers with technology, I do want to point out some work done by Andy Dangle and colleagues. And in this representation, this model here, you'll see the macro, meso, and micro levels of immersive teaching and learning. So what I'm talking about today is just, one bullet point in the larger sphere of change management in institutions of learning, either K-12 or higher ed, and just, again, paying attention to the complexity involved with making change. I created a new course for teachers to empower them as designers of immersive learning experiences for their classrooms. The focus of this course is on designing for pro-social and environmental change. And I chose that focus. I'm just very inspired by how immersive technologies can contribute to helping us teach the SDGs, which are concepts that are very challenging. They're interdisciplinary, they're complex. They're difficult to teach in ways such that students want to pay attention, care, take action. So that's the focus of my course. And the students have created a variety of different worlds. I'm going to talk a bit about the boreal forest experience. Other examples, there's a green punk VR world to explore the science of green energy, Grasslands National Park VR experience, and many others. In the boreal forest experience, you will partake in a VR scavenger hunt. It's in Altspace VR. And through the use of embedded videos, Myrtle O'Brien, who's a traditional knowledge keeper, she will demonstrate her knowledge of Indigenous plants, language, and traditions. And so students can learn about respecting the environment and the human impact on the land. And the focus for the teachers in this course, who are my students, is to really learn about how to design an immersive learning experience and to focus on the pedagogy, the learning outcomes. You can see 3 avatars on this slide, and there are 3 students who partnered together, and it's an approach that I recommend for students to collaborate because they will push each other along and their synergy will inspire them to have more good ideas and to keep on going. So the course is just really contributing what we can contribute to designing meaningful learning experiences and with an ethical foundation that benefits the lives of all people and the planet. It's something very important to me in the courses I teach, that we think about the SDGs and we think about our learning in relation to the well-being of each other and the planet that we live in. The course is an example of pedagogical innovation. And so from that, now I'm moving towards evidence-based practice. And I've done a pilot study with 7 youth and 2 teachers. And next month, we'll be doing a full class of 28 students and 2 teachers to go through these worlds and learn, and we will study the efficacy and the learning outcomes. Some things from the pilot study that I did, the youth are very engaged, and some of the comments, the best thing I found about VR is it gives you extended capabilities. Exploring worlds, having more realistic conversations. This gives us a better idea of what world problems are like. For example, like the pollution in the ocean. VR is super realistic and immersive, way more than in any video game. I recommend my friends trying it. Just try it, you'll love it. It's a great experience and a much better way to get together virtually. So I have found that few of the participants had prior knowledge about learning the SDGs in school. They didn't know about how many SDGs, the targets, the interconnections. Many were surprised to learn they are not solely based on the environment and climate, but they're also about people too, like poverty, world hunger, equality, and education for all. And I would just argue that we really need to explore all our pedagogical approaches that we have for engaging and connecting youth with the SDGs and education that involves greater planetary resilience. Some of the lessons that I've learned from working with teachers and how to empower teachers who do not have experience creating immersive learning experiences to design experiences for their students. It's very important to pause and think about the barriers to student success, and you will empower teachers by removing those barriers and acknowledging those barriers. Never forget the heart and mind of the beginner. The important thing is to not just think about the technology enthusiasts and those who are really fired up about using new technologies. You really need to think about the late adopters and how to empower them, because once you empower more of the late adopters, there will be ripple effects that are just synergistic and go along with everyone. Organic support networks are essential for training and for resource sharing and for inspiration and well-being. That was the case in my course that I run, that we really benefited from the help of others on Discord. Educators in VR were a great asset and support, so I'm very grateful for all their contributions. The immersive tool should always be selected with pedagogy and learning outcomes and student experiences as the priority. Consider artful, accessible, and affordable integration of immersive technologies. You don't always need the most high-tech solution. So sometimes a simple solution is actually better. And world building is a great opportunity for students. It's one of the best assignments ever. We need to do more work around immersive storytelling. Very quickly, I just want to wrap up with a new book that I'm working on with Jennifer Locke at the University of Calgary, and it's on immersive education, designing for learning. And it's an edited book collection. So in the chapters, the book is contributing to how we can empower not only just teachers, but designers who want to create immersive learning experiences and environments, but don't want to start from the ground up. So this book will contribute a lot to empowering teachers and designers. Every chapter has a vignette to contextualize example that shows the shows the intent of the chapter in a real world educational setting. And a critical part of this book is really to check assumptions about immersive learning. It's to look at what we can really do with immersive learning that is different. And we're also looking at many of the tensions. So you're going to see how you'll see how folks have learned from success and also from failure. Not failure, but from trying something innovative and having to go to the plan B. Every chapter integrates an instructional design framework, so that informs the application of theory to practice. The chapters also present a lot of information about the instructor's role in designing an immersive learning experience, how to assess the learning, how to have a pre-activity, a post-activity, how to facilitate connections and reflections with the course materials. Important things to integrate. And every chapter also contributes pedagogical strategies and design guidelines for practitioners who have developed and created immersive learning experiences in their practice. So this will be available this summer, and really grateful for the authors who are contributing. That is my talk today. Look forward to the follow-up discussion.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Paula. It was absolutely fantastic to end those three presentations with the main lesson that at the end of the day, it's all about humans, and especially the educators and those that they educate. I come from the technology side, and I know we have a tendency to fall in love with the technology and then assault the educators with, this is everything that you can do, and bringing it back to this is everything that you think you should do, because only you educators know what's appropriate, is, I think, a fantastic lesson, and one that we need to keep in mind if this is going to become the future. Speaking of bringing back educators into the mix, I'm welcoming back Tess and Jeremy, and we have half an hour to have a little discussion. So we will take some questions from the chat. I've earmarked a few, but I have a couple of my own to start with, and I would really love you if you could keep your answers extremely concise and precise, because we have about 13 questions to go through times 4 people. So it's going to be an exercise in concision. Question 1, it can be one word. If you had to pick one challenge, just one challenge that you think immersive learning, immersive technologies is solving for real, where it's 10 times better than the status quo, what would be the one challenge? Not that you can see from the place that is not prepared for that question.
For me, it's practicing high-risk situations, like medical procedures, practicing something where if you kill the patient, it doesn't really kill them.
Okay, so it's about not dying, which is a pretty good reason to do something. Paula, Tess, do you have something to bring in?
So you said one risk.
One challenge. What's the one challenge that you're solving with VR?
One challenge. So my biggest challenge was the ability, like Jeremy said, I guess, to the fear of killing someone or harming a patient. And this way they can practice and practice and practice and never have that problem, and never, have the problem of having hands in a patient and something go wrong. And so they can practice that over and over again.
And
Fantastic.
I'll jump in and say the SDGs. So as the focus in my talk, it won't solve the problems of the Sustainable Development Goals, but we really need new stories. The old stories of domination and conquest and extracting from nature, they really need to change. And they're holding us back. And I think immersive technologies can help us to have immersive stories that are different stories. And they're also can help us to teach topics around SDG education that are very heavy, that are difficult to teach in a classroom setting, so that they're not overwhelming or all gloom and doom. And I think there's just a lot of opportunity there.
Great. So there is on on top of the spatial immersion that allows you to burn without burning, there's the emotional immersion that probably allows you to reconnect with the real world whilst being in a virtual one. So that's really interesting. The second question I have for you, and I will ask you to answer honestly because this will be very valuable for everyone in the chat, is in your current journey, creating, deploying immersive tech, what's the greatest mistake that you've made? What have you learned from it?
I'll say that one of our greatest mistakes was, it's not really a mistake. It's more of, it was super hard to convince people that this was the way to go. I still have that to this day. I still have a hard time convincing people to get on board with a virtual reality system. It's more of like, I've kind of founded a way to do it. So you have your research, you go through your evaluation, you write up a plan, and then you present it to them. In the healthcare world, a lot of people are used to being in a situation where I'm going to just teach how I was taught. I'm not going to, jump off the cliff into the innovation pool. They just wanted to be, this is all I know. This is what I'm going to do. So it's really going through that research and researching, people like Jeremy and people like Paula who have done this stuff, who we can present and say, this is actually working in the world. So that's my biggest issue. Cleaning headsets. That was another huge one.
Lots of wipes.
Yep.
I'm working with teachers and students, so I put them to work with cleaning headsets. So I'm not guilty of that, but I am guilty of not planning the onboarding and just, being a regular user of VR, forgetting that those who are new to VR for the first time, they really need a positive, safe, comfortable onboarding experience. And for many, that's their first experience in VR. Not everybody needs the same onboarding. So like going forward, I have onboarding phases because some need to move ahead faster than others. So taking the time to really think through onboarding, especially with those new to VR, is very important. So don't make any assumptions there.
I would say for us, it was probably trying to do too much at once. I thought we could build 4 large VR projects in a year. That was just a bit too much to take on with 2 developers and a group of students that changed and graduated. So understanding the scope of what's possible with the resources we need. But we learned a lot from that and how to scope much better.
I'm going to bring in a very, very practical question from the chat. I don't know if that's going to bring it in. 1 second. So to those of you who use VR headsets with college students, what type of headset have you found the most user-friendly, efficient, and have the least tech issues? I will add in the tech issues the data privacy and deployment aspect of things.
I'll go. So we are currently using Quest only within College of Nursing and Global Center. We found that was the easiest. Most of the applications that we have are on the Oculus. I have how-to training guides, onboarding training guides that we made prior to rolling out to students and faculty. We have kind of like an intro to VR sim kind of group. But we liked the Quest and the Quest 2 just because they were not tethered, and we didn't have the budget to pay for the high graphics laptops, and so that was a huge price point for us. There are some difficulties with the Quest and getting licenses as far as like Facebook. So we definitely have a process for that. That took me quite some time as a technologist for that, and I think everyone kind of has those issues. So maybe that's coming in a couple of quarters through Meta. So hopefully that will help us. I know all of our educators and partners out there are very stressed by that, but I do think in my opinion, I thought that Quest was the easiest to control and to facilitate. We used, I will say we did use Quest 1 business headsets, and we bought the business accounts. That worked really well when we gave our headsets to students who were developing our games, just because then we could monitor them and shut them down if we needed to.
Similar to Tess, I'm using the Quest, but Quest 1 and Quest 2. So I have a set of Quest 1 headsets that fortunately we set up with generic accounts on Oculus. So I actually can use those headsets with students because we do not need to connect those to Facebook. The original accounts are still working. So I'm using those with the younger students. And then with the teachers I work with, the Quest is $20 for me to mail it anywhere in Canada. So it's really easy to mail a headset. My students are not all located in the city where I live. I teach in an online grad program. So it's just super easy to pop a headset in the mailbox, and it's been, it's worked quite well.
I echo everything that's been said. From the PC VR, we do have some HP reverbs. We've got some Rift S's on campus. But those require a high-end computer to go with them, so the cost just gets a little more out of control. But from a lab setting, they work quite well. But all the other things about Quest, yes, we've tried the Focus 3. We've tried the Pico. Pico's nice. I like it. With them and Meta, we have concerns about data privacy.
Fair enough. You have mentioned, all of you, very briefly, the way VR is deployed. So Paula, you just mentioned shipping headsets, like mailing them out. Jeremy, a second ago, you mentioned a lab setting. Tess, you showed us a video of two ways of doing that in the education building itself. What are your views on if you're an institution and you want thousands of students to go through your VR simulations, what's the way to deploy that? Is it selling headsets? Is it having a lab? Is it relying on the educators to do it in the classroom? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I'll go. So it depends on what you're rolling out. So if you're rolling out simulation as a service, whereas your student is just getting in the headset and going on their own, or if it's simulation where you have a moderator, like for example, at the College of Nursing where we have a moderator, we actually have 3 days where we have students go through as kind of like a simulation, like pods. So they go through, they go into a mannequin simulation, they go into the VR simulation, and we rotate them. We just don't have enough headsets because we don't have funding. And so that's kind of the way that we utilize those headsets. I've been in contact with people who've rolled out 1,000 headsets, and I will tell you, be friendly to your technology department, because that is who's going to have to set up all of these fake Facebook accounts or these Meta accounts. And so, I've had to set up all of the headsets for my university in my realm, and it is time consuming. So just be prepared for that. If you're not just going to be able to buy them and then all of a sudden you're good to go. It doesn't work like that. It does take some time to get them connected to the Wi-Fi. You need to make sure that that's an understanding as well, and be able to talk to your IT department about that. But yeah, we just sent them through in different ways. We don't actually have, it would be amazing if you could have a student have the headset and be able to take it home with them and have them attach their EDU. But right now with Meta, that isn't a possibility. So, if they could take it home, they could be on their own Wi-Fi. That would take less of your Wi-Fi system. So there are some complications with that. But ours is definitely just rotating through just because we don't have the headset capability or the amount of headsets that we need.
A few things building on your comments, Tess, is if you're using the headsets with a large group on a campus, I would suggest contacting the IT and having them set up a conference wireless login so that you get a very simple login and it's not with a real long convoluted username and password. And you want to think about as well, like how many devices are you trying to wirelessly connect? Because you might want to be in different rooms simply to access different hotspot points. So something again I've had to think that one through. And in a K-12 system, many districts won't even let teachers connect their one Oculus Quest or headset to the school Wi-Fi. So there still are many things that, will need to change as we move forward.
I will say we did have, so when I recommend to other schools like K-12 schools, every headset they buy or every 2 to 3 headsets they buy, they have a Wi-Fi hotspot from Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever, and you can buy the cheapest plan. It's pretty cheap, and so then they use those instead of using their school's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I agree with it also. Oh, Chris, I think we can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. But I was going to ask you what you thought, but you agree on it.
Yeah, we're fortunate. We have a Wi-Fi network set up for IoT devices, so we're able to just put the MAC address in and add all of our devices anywhere on campus. So we have a large enough network. We just upgraded to Wi-Fi 6, so they're staying ahead of it on our IT side. So that helps here for the remote learners and the students that have taken it home. It's been hit or miss on their Wi-Fi at home, but they were able to get them access connected pretty quickly.
You're one of the lucky ones, Jeremy. There are a couple of solutions out there, Redbox VR to name one, that deliver a bit more of a hardware solution around the headset. So you get a suitcase, you can charge the headset, it comes with its own Verizon dongle. So we're getting there, but clearly do not underestimate the difficulties of deploying at scale and probably start small. I wanted to do a quick, I know we said we were not going to do any crystal ball gazing, but I want to do 1 minute of crystal ball gazing. It's the year 2030. You've spent 8 years doing the kind of work that you've just talked about, which is a lot. I'm a student at Michigan or Nebraska or Saskatchewan. What does immersive learning? What role does immersive learning play in my day-to-day life? I wake up at 10 a.m. because I'm a lazy student. But what happens the rest of the day in relation to those technologies?
I really hope that that IVR is a widely accepted form of education learning by then. Like I said before, we just have a lot of feedback where people are like, well, we don't want to invest in this. Or I've met with people who said we got burned by it. Like we invested in a company that's no longer there. And so my hope is that we don't shy away from this, that this actually moves, into the future. And I know I'd love it if every school or every university had a metaversity or, had a place where students could go and take those classes if they chose to. If they didn't, they have other forms of learning. But it's just that we don't want it to just be this hype phrase, hey, be into the metaverse and you have to have, VR in every classroom. You don't. It's just, I hope that immersive education is here to stay and that more people believe in it. Because I really do think it can change the way education is taught.
I'll jump in with Tess with your idea of the meta university. And Chris, you said 2030, so that aligns with the target for our global goals. And I hope this metaversity is life-centered. We need immersive technologies to pay attention to sustainable design practices. which are not well integrated into developing immersive technologies into the metaverse. That really needs to change. We cannot have a thriving metaversity in a toxic ecology. And I hope that the metaverse will be more life-centered for all of life. So that includes human life, artificial life, and the planet, the natural world that we live in.
Those are all great. We're thinking a lot here in Michigan about what a blended future looks like for remote learners and distance education and kind of online hybrid degree programs. So I would hope for certain classes where there's people somewhere else in the world and they're here on campus, they can be connected in an immersive way. That courses that need this immersive, practicing and skill training have the tools, and we have the mechanism to make that happen for them. Do I see everyone in a VR headset? Probably not. But it's going to have a space where it makes sense to go in and do that experience and then discuss it either remotely with other folks or kind of outside the headset. So I think it'll have a clear space. I think the AR will have potentially more options when that comes out, if the physics can figure it out, how to get a nice battery in these things and work. So we'll see.
Great. I mean, you have listed, all three of you, I think two or three of you, there's a few dozens VR experiences that you have created. And the breadth of use cases is mind-blowing. And that's just 3 institutions. We're going to have the equivalent done by hundreds of institutions. We're talking thousands of experiences. So everyone is talking about the metaverse, the kind of like unified magic world that happens. But what I see today is this, right? Is hundreds of initiatives that are unconnected and not communicated. What is your view? And this time around we can start with Jeremy. What's your view on accessibility and where we need to be for the education sector as a whole to make the most out of this technology?
I don't know.
Facebook opening an education, store?
Yeah, I mean, we think about accessibility a lot in all these experiences, and how do we make them available to folks that don't have a headset, or so a lot of our apps, we're making them desktop enabled. I'm seeing more and more platforms allow kind of browser based or streaming. That's why we did a lot of interactive 360 video, because you can do it in a headset, but you can also do it on a device that's not, I mean, people that are vision impaired, I don't have the solution for that yet. I mean, there's spatial audio and things like that are really interesting. But it is at the center of kind of all of our design of applications. How are we going to make this accessible? What UX, how do we make this available on different platforms as well?
Yeah, I'll echo Jeremy. We also, we have found some of our nursing students. So I've been in situations where someone's colorblind and they get really sick in the headset because of the motion. So we've, found other solutions. So like, for example, with the moderator software, the student has to walk someone like myself, who's not a medical expert, through a simulation. So we've found ways around accessibility issues. And there's going to be someone with vision impairments. So like we've come up with other solutions, like in a previous life, I worked with automotive, and instead of having VR, we actually put they had some vision impairment. And so we actually put like a 360 camera that we lowered down into the motor and saw, in a live view, what the motor actually looks like. And then that person could zoom in on a desktop or a phone. So there are ways to do it. I think that accessibility will be an issue in the future, especially if you you are blind, fully blind. So then that would be an issue. We have people who get dizzy in like the tractor simulation, or because it's moving and you're bumping up and down. And so we've had different things where we have put people against something. So they put their leg against a table to kind of steady them. or we've had them sit down in a chair because it makes you motion sickness, or people have taken motion sickness drugs, just so that they feel comfortable in the headset. All of our stuff for our healthcare out in the field is all on multiple modalities, just because there is a lack of that. So it is telling a healthcare facility, oh, well, we want you to use our platform, but you have to have a headset. Well, not necessarily do they have the education budget to buy a headset. So that's part of why the Global Center, that's why my job is doing what it is, so that we can hopefully prevent that, and we can ship those headsets out, or we can provide that interaction. But I do think AR, I would really like AR, just because you could utilize an iPad, which almost every institution has, or a phone, which every institution or everyone has. And so hopefully, that helps with the future of accessibility issues.
I'll just add that there are always already tensions around any kind of technologies for learning, and there is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And it is very important, like Tess and Jeremy are talking about, that we really keep in mind accessibility, and we think about inclusion. We all need to be the water to raise all the ships. It's something so important in our world right now. But it won't be not to look for a one-size-fits-all approach. So you really need to look at, where is there a problem of learning? Where is there a challenge? You don't want to replace something that is already working. And how can we contribute in different instances and spaces to make learning better and more accessible? And, it won't be the same for everybody, but we just have to, keep trying to do that, all that we can, to support everybody.
Great. Thanks a lot, Paula. Last question, because we have 3 minutes. So we have educators here who are probably excited and want to, start on the road following your hiring trails. What's the one piece of advice that you would have for an educator starting on their immersive journey right now?
I would, like I said before, this process of REP, it's called REP, or what I put together is REP: research, evaluate, plan, and present. That just, gets you as much information as you can to be able to go to your administrators and say, this is what this should help our students with, or this is what we should be using to help educate our students. My other big thing is, people did not believe that we would accomplish this. And I was just talking to a few colleagues that said, how is it that 2 years later, we're like one of the few? I went to a conference in January, and people are like, how come you've been doing that? How have you been doing this for 3 years? And I was like, I've been doing it for 7. Like, people just are, try to communicate with as many people as you can. Reach out to us. I'm sure all 3 of us would be happy to help you on your journey, or communicate with the different companies on your journey. I mean, I'm doing a white paper on 170 different healthcare companies. So there's a lot out there, and it can be confusing and you can get lost. So please reach out to me, definitely, and I can definitely help you with walking through how to do all that.
My comment to professors in higher education and to K-12 teachers is to use immersive tools to empower your students as immersive storytellers. There are so many different ways for students to share their learning, their voices, represent their knowledge in different platforms that have very low barriers that you can use. I use them with students in primary school, and they have a high ceiling for those that are in post-secondary. And it's just really important that we find different kinds of assignments for students that let them to represent their views, their perspectives, and immersive storytelling lets us do that. try it out.
I will add one more thing. Find a champion at your school, or if there isn't one, ask one of us.
I agree with all of that. Only thing I would add is just really understand what your learning goals and objectives are to understand if this is the right technology that you're trying to solve that problem with. It's really cool, some fun things, but it may not always be the right choice.
Great. So doing VR for the right reasons, and I guess including all the different stakeholders, the learners, the educators, and the rest of the staff, because at the end of the day, it is the human buy-in that will make or break it. So thanks a lot, Tess, Jeremy, and Paula. You've all presented amazing stuff. There's a lot of resources in your slide, which I've posted on the chat. You can find Jeremy, Tess, and Paula on LinkedIn. They're all very active. They all have experiences that are available for free as well for you to test. So please use all those resources. We ourselves at Boloswaps have a small gift for everyone who joined today, which is if you scan that QR code or you visit bodyswaps.co and you look for Let's Talk About Race in the library, we're happy to give everyone a free trial of those simulations, which is something we built with George Brown College in Canada to change the nature of the discussion around race. Finally, you can find me on LinkedIn, Christophe Mallet, or LinkedIn/about-Christophe. It's not goodbye. We'll have a next episode. If there's anyone that you would like to see present on the next episode, any amazing educators that you feel have a voice that needs to be heard, you know where to find me. So that's it. That's it from us today. Thanks so much again, everyone, for your time. It was fascinating as always, and hope to speak to you all soon.
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.